Have you ever heard a headline that was so strange you had to do a double take? I mean, how about this one? The United States wants to buy Greenland. It sounds like something out of a movie, but it's a real story. And it has these massive geopolitical implications. So let's dig in and unravel what's really going on here. And yeah, this wasn't just some off-the-cuff remark. This is a direct quote from a U.S. special envoy. The message couldn't be clearer. This ambition is very real. And let me tell you that one sentence sent some major shockwaves through the diplomatic world, especially in one European capital. And that capital? Well, of course it was Copenhagen. You see, Denmark has sovereignty over Greenland, and they weren't just surprised by this, they were genuinely alarmed. For them, this didn't feel like a negotiation. It felt like a demand, and it seriously rattled a very, very old alliance. So Denmark's Prime Minister, Mette Frederiksen, she immediately went on the defensive, pushed back hard, rejected the whole idea. But what's really key here is how she argued her case. She started appealing to a set of international rules that, she assumed everyone was still playing by. So Denmark's whole case rested on these four big pillars: international law, alliances, security, and democracy. I mean, this is basically the foundation of the entire post-World War II order, right? But here's the kicker. The analysis we're looking at suggests a really stark reality. Those pillars are starting to crumble. It's like Denmark was making arguments for a game that nobody's even playing anymore. Okay, so that leads us to the big question. If the old rulebook is out the window, what is the real motive here? The official line was national security, but is that the whole story? I don't think so. Let's start peeling back some layers. Right, so on the surface, the official story is all about security. But the real motives are everything hiding just beneath the surface. We're talking about a massive grab for resources and a huge power move to establish a new sphere of influence. And when you actually look at the evidence, well, it's pretty telling. Just look at these numbers. They tell a huge part of a story. If this was some pressing national security issue, you'd expect a pretty big military presence, wouldn't you? But there are only about 150 to 200 U.S. troops there today. Now compare that to 6,000 during the Cold War. The math just doesn't add up. So, if it's not really about security, what is it about? Well, here you go. We are talking about a landmass 3 times the size of Texas, loaded with untapped rare earth minerals, huge oil and gas reserves, and it's a critical piece of real estate in the Arctic. It is a geopolitical jackpot. So, let's think about this. A big, powerful nation making a play for a smaller territory and using a kind of misleading justification. Does that sound familiar at all? It should. The analysis we're exploring points to a very specific and very recent playbook. Yup, to really understand the potential strategy for Greenland, the source tells us to look no further than Vladimir Putin's seizure of Crimea back in 2014. It's presented as a modern blueprint for how a great power can operate, using a mix of pressure, money, and just enough force to get what it wants. I mean, just look at this side by side. It's pretty stark, right? In both cases, you have the public justification, which masks the deeper motive of power and resource control. And the method isn't all-out war, it's this hybrid approach, a mix of tactics to get the job done without a full-scale conflict. The parallels, according to this analysis, are pretty hard to ignore. So this is about way more than just one island, no matter how huge it is. The whole Greenland situation is being presented as a symptom of a much larger global shift. We could be witnessing the collapse of one world order and the really chaotic birth of another. For over 70 years, the world, and especially Europe, has operated under this system. A framework where international law mattered, alliances kept you secure, and, nations didn't just try to take territory from their friends. That's the world Denmark was appealing to. But it looks like we might be going back in time to a 19th-century model of competition, a world where powerful nations just carve out their own spheres of influence and the strongest player on the block makes the rules. In this system, might makes right isn't just a saying, it's the operating principle. And this quote from the source material just captures the moment perfectly. We're not in some stable, new system yet. We are in the messy, unpredictable, and frankly dangerous transition between systems. It really is like watching the grisly death throes of the old order. So this great unraveling, it leaves us with a future that's totally in flux. The guardrails are coming off, and it's raising this whole cascade of profound and urgent questions for nations all over the globe. For example, if territorial integrity isn't sacred anymore, what on earth does that mean for Taiwan, the global hub for the chip industry, living under the constant threat of a much, much larger neighbor? And if we're really entering an era of competing spheres of influence, where are the new borders going to be? How will the ambitions of Russia, China, and the US all collide? These are the questions that could define conflict for the rest of this century. And what about the European Union? I mean, the EU is the ultimate rules-based project. The entire thing is built on that idea. Can it possibly survive when the world all around it just stops playing by those same rules? So we started with a really strange story about buying Greenland. And this is where we've ended up. The Greenland Gambit, it turns out, isn't just about an island. It's a huge flashing signal that the world we've all known is fading away. And that leaves us all with the ultimate question. As this old order dies, what exactly is being born to take its place?